we can actually permit official representatives of the United States, including the members of this very commission headed by Mr. Mueller, we can let them into the country and they will be present to this questioning. But in this case, there is another condition. This kind of effort should be a mutual one. Then we would expect that the Americans would reciprocate and they would question officials, including the officers of law enforcement and intelligence services of the United States, whom we believe who have something to do with illegal actions on the territory of Russia. And we have to request the presence of our law enforcement.
What does he not understand about good guys and bad guys? I'm sorry. How about that for an offer? Russia helping to get to the bottom of campaign collusion. Collusion with Russia. Under Putin's grand scheme, Robert Mueller's team, the good guys, would be allowed to observe Russians, the bad guys, questioning the 12 intelligence officers indicted by the good guys on Friday. Go figure. Donald Trump, though, called that an incredible offer. Of course he did, once again reinforcing something the New York Times reported after the indictments, that Trump, quote, is almost wholly untethered from his administration when it comes to dealing with Moscow. And given the response we've seen to what's gone on in Russia today, here's a question worth asking. Is Robert Mueller the last remaining guardrail between Trump and all-out chaos? Joining the panel is MSNBC contributor Betsy Woodruff, politics reporter for the Daily Beast. We'll give you the first stab at that. It seems that even Republicans who have been loath to criticize this president seem to have re-upped their statements of support for the work Bob Mueller's doing. I watched Fox on Friday after the indictments, and I didn't hear many Republicans criticizing the indictments of 13 Russians. And I'm wondering if you're hearing anything in terms of some of the more moderate Republicans sort of pulling back from criticizing Mueller.
There's an interesting contrast between the president's legal team. Rudy Giuliani tweeted shortly after that indictment came out that the Mueller probe needed to be shut down, and Republicans on Capitol Hill. Sort of one of the big flashpoints over the last couple of weeks has been the role of Rod Rosenstein, the deputy attorney general who's in charge of Mueller's investigation, and the friction between himself, the DOJ, and Republicans in Congress who are trying to sort of investigate the investigators by trying to force Rod to turn over documents related to the inception of the Russia investigation. Rosenstein has resisted that, and now there are some voices in Congress that have been calling for his impeachment. However, there's some pretty influential Republicans with strong conservative bona fides who've been opposed to that, probably most notably Trey Gowdy, a congressman from South Carolina who's on his way out, not running for re-election, who suggested he didn't know why Rosenstein would potentially be impeached. So there is this interesting friction within the Republican Party. I think it's something that's not going to go away. It will be percolating. But broadly, the fact that Mueller was able to emphasize in this indictment that no Americans had been charged with collusion is something I think that has quieted a little bit of the concern, at least from Republicans on Capitol Hill.
Rosenstein seems to have acknowledged with a close circle of his own advisors that he had to get himself on a little more offense. He's still, dodging and weaving bullets from all the lunatics in the Republican Party, especially in the House Republican side. But he knew what he was doing on Friday. I'm guessing he had a sense of the president's reaction because he'd been briefed about the indictments before he went over there, crawled into jammies and got under the covers with Vladimir Putin today. What do you think is going on at the Justice Department with Rosenstein, his deputy Ed O'Callaghan, who know everything that's going on inside the Mueller investigation and who knew very well how those indictments would look juxtaposed against the president's, wedding dance with Vladimir Putin today?
I think he's declaring the Department of Justice's independence, and I think he's doing it in the way that the department can, which is with facts. They can't come out and defend themselves in the way, against the president's attacks by talking about what they're investigating. They can't kind of, leak things out, but they can roll out indictments when they have them. And it wasn't a coincidence that the indictment was released on Friday before this big summit. I don't know that they scheduled it for 3 days before the summit. But they obviously knew it was happening, and they didn't delay it, and there was no reason that they needed to have it on Friday versus. And
that would have been a political. I mean, that would have been something that they could have faced criticism from the other side, right? If they delayed it to make the president look good in Russia. Yeah,
they absolutely could have. And one of the things Rosenstein said on Friday that I thought was so powerful, which is, we didn't name the victims of this hack in the indictments. They were obviously Hillary Clinton and the Clinton campaign, because we thought the entire American public was the victim. The entire American people, our elections, were the victim. What did you see Donald Trump do today instead? He went over to Russia, and while he was excusing Vladimir Putin, he attacked the victim. He attacked Hillary Clinton. He attacked the investigators that are investigating this case. And you see this distance between he attacked the FBI. Yeah. You see this distance between the Justice Department and the president now. You ask, why can't he just accept these indictments? These aren't about collusion. These are just about the Russian side of it. He can't accept anything Bob Mueller does because he doesn't know what the next shoe to drop is going to be. And it might be his son. It might be his son-in-law. It might be him. So once he accepts one piece of Bob Mueller's investigation is valid, he owns the next piece as well.
How is this playing in Moscow for Vladimir Putin to have brought Donald Trump so far away from his own political appointees in the intelligence community, so far from his own Justice Department, to literally stand and say exactly what Vladimir Putin says about Russia's attack on the 2016 election?
You got to unpack this here. There's a number of things. On one hand, of course, Trump is the chaos candidate. This is perfect for Moscow. This is perfect for Putin. This is what he's wanted all along, and to break the bond between Western Europe and the United States. At the same time, too, the Russians have to worry a little bit about this president. He is a little bit off the reservation. Who knows where he can go with these kind of things? And I think a little bit with the indictment here, the Justice Department dealing in facts, I think there's some stuff here that's a shot across the bow to Putin, too, that the amount of intelligence information that is likely in this indictment. They have specific names, specific ranks. There's a lot of information here.
That's to be
so
scary.
That makes you wonder if you're in Moscow as, ooh, how much do they know about what we're doing? How much deniability can we have? We often talk about Putin, his deniability, as implausible deniability. He'll just deny things that, complete nonsense stuff. And so, but in this case, they have to worry about what the U.S. knows here.
Betsy, let me come back to you because I did notice that this was the most detailed indictment unsealed so far in the Mueller investigation. There's been a lot of analysis from legal experts that he's held a lot of information out of these indictments, and that this was the most we've learned about both the methodology of the investigation, the reliance on technology to sort of unpack and unravel the forensics that are going into his investigation were revealed more in the Friday indictments than we've seen before in previous indictments.
That's right, and that's certainly not a mistake. When it comes to counter-espionage investigations, and particularly to indictments of hackers, people who engage in internet and computer crimes, attribution is one of the most important things that prosecutors can do. It's a key part to the success of a counter-espionage effort, that you can show your work, that you can demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that we as the United States are able to assess which individuals took which specific steps at which specific points in time as part of a hack targeted at American citizens. The reason attribution is so important to cybersecurity experts is that it's viewed as one of the only deterrents that exists when it comes to this type of computer crime. Many hackers are less likely to engage in computer crimes if they know that they will eventually be found out. Part of the reason that hacking can be such a potent crime to commit, whether you're talking about state-backed actors or non-state actors, is because of the anonymity. So naming names is incredibly important here, and that's why this indictment is significant. Not just, look, nobody's going to get extradited to the United States, despite Putin's comments at the press conference today. That's basically unthinkable. So the text of the indictment in and of itself is really important, and that's why Mueller seems to have crafted it the way he did, with just that granular level of detail.
Eddie, our friend David Ignatius writes today, Putin must be asking himself, how do the Americans find out all these facts, as you said? Right. What other operations have been compromised, and how much else do they know? What do you think the president knows about just how much Mueller knows about the original crime? And I guess what I'm asking you is, do you think there will be any sort of effort to shield the Mueller probe or shield the Justice Department in letting Trump just sort of know what he sees on Fox News and not much else? I mean, do you think this could have a chilling effect on just how deep they get with the president?
I hope not. Or I hope so. I don't, I'm not sure.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah. What do you hope for?
I hope that Mueller can continue doing what he's doing. And I do know that Trump he behaves like a man who's deeply afraid, that he's scared. And with this 29-page indictment, there's the question of whether or not it's going to go towards Putin or whether it's coming back to the states. You guys know this stuff more than I do, better than I do. But whether or not he's actually coming back to the states to see which Americans colluded, who actually participated or co-participated in this stuff. So I think Trump is really scared. But Trump's narcissism is such, right, that it knows no bounds. He can't make a distinction and here I'm shifting a bit, he can't make a distinction between the idea of him colluding and the idea of the Russians actually attacking the country.
Right.
Right. And to the extent to which he can't make that distinction, he's going to meddle in something. He's going to get in. He's going to behave in such a way to try to disrupt it. So I just hope, my hope is that Mueller can continue to do what he's doing.
You're an expert. What do you think the intelligence? I mean, do you think there's a natural reflex to not tell the president everything that we know about what? I mean, if they think that this may end in some discovery that someone close to the president or the president himself knew about what they were doing to help him, do you think they want the president to know everything they know?
The instinct of the intelligence community is to tell the president all he needs to know and all that we have to the extent that he needs it to do, foreign policy and national security policy. However, in this case, because it's a counterespionage investigation, the FBI plays a role here too. And so if the intelligence community has information that impinges on counterespionage investigation, there may be choices, and this is tough, to hold back certain information or to decide, maybe without even knowing it yourself, what stuff you're willing to give and not give. And maybe in this sense, the fact that Trump doesn't like a lot of information or can't process a lot of information might be good for the...
We know we could put it in writing because he doesn't read it. We also know, though, that in the Oval Office with Sergei Kislyak and Ambassador Lavrov, he shared classified information. He told them that he was glad that he had that nut job Comey off his, off the radar. They're glad he gotten rid of him, and he shared some intelligence. So there is a pattern of sharing. And again, I don't know if it would be reflexive or deliberate, but do you think that he's getting all the Russia intelligence?
I know the intelligence community, including the FBI, started this administration by trying to establish a relationship with him where they would tell him what they needed to know. That's why Jim Comey went and briefed him and told him about the dossier. They were trying to tell him about what the Russians had done. He lost his mind about it. But I know there are concerns at the Justice Department now about what's happening with information in this investigation.
It gets leaked to House Republicans.
It gets leaked to Fox News. It leaks to Fox News. There is the professor in London who helped the FBI with its investigation, the informant. His name became public. Yeah. Every source he worked with is now worried. Every investigation he worked on is now burned. I know there's a very real concern that information that goes to the president either through direct means or through Congress, through House Republicans, eventually becomes public and hurts the probe.
Let me get Betsy in. I mean, any chance there'd be a leak investigation involving the president and that sort of information superhighway to Fox News and his allies in the House Republican Judiciary Committee?
The likelihood of investigating the president as an individual is unlikely, but look, there are all sorts of questions about the relationship between the White House officials, and particularly Devin Nunes and the House Intelligence Committee. We've seen a significant amount of sort of what appears to be quite a cozy relationship there, and that's something that, of course, has people concerned. Part of the reason that the Justice Department has come to such loggerheads over and over with Capitol Hill over these document requests, including requests from the House Oversight Committee and the House Judiciary Committee, the list kind of goes on, is because there's this understanding or almost resignation to the fact within the DOJ that if they give a document to Capitol Hill, it will leak by the time the ink's dry on the paper, that it's a matter of minutes before these documents go from the Hill to Fox News or to other conservative media outlets. And of course, if you're in the Justice Department and you're working on an active investigation, that's a prospect that's extremely galling.
And one senior Justice Department official said to me that there's not a lot different about information requests from the Hill, but what's so different is that it all gets leaked to conservative media outlets within minutes, as you just described.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.